didn't want them to see Sam Frost chucking her shit in the bin. I don't even know how to start this story. Okay.
TV personality Sam Frost.
People look at you and think she has it all.
People think that they know you and you're like, you don't know me at all. You don't know anything about me. I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. I didn't like being in my body. I hated myself. I hated my brain. I hated the way I looked. I hated my thoughts. I hated everything about who I was. Yeah, it was ruining my life. When you're feeling like that and you're suffering from depression, you feel like you're a burden to everybody. The dread that I felt about thinking, what if I have postnatal depression? I already have a history of depression. I just feel so grateful that I get to experience this and it's something so positive. And I'm just like, It is the most fun I've ever had. I am so happy because I know what it feels like to feel low.
I feel like today's guest doesn't need an introduction, but I'm a professional, so
That's
I'm
your
going to
job.
do it anyway. Sam Frost. Sam has been on our screens over the last 6 to 10 years almost. When was The
Babe,
Bachelor?
I was on The Bachelor 7 years ago. So Sam was on
8,
The Bachelor
9,
11, 10 years ago.
10 years.
It was 10 years ago.
10 years ago, Sam Frost came onto our screens on The Bachelor. We fell in love with her. She became The Bachelorette. She then got an amazing job as an actress on Home and Away. She's an author. She's written books. She's done radio. She has literally done it all, including becoming a new mum. We had her on as a guest at our live shows in Brisbane, which was actually the funniest, most phenomenal interview. And we've had so many people in our DMs asking for you to come and do a full episode. So I couldn't be happier to welcome you to the podcast. Sam Frost, welcome to Life Uncut.
Thank you so much for having me. What an honour.
Sam, honestly, when we had you in Brisbane at the Brisbane show, I loved it so much because we covered, which we will today, a bit of a rehash on what that conversation was. There was some very funny moments, but we also spoke a lot about mental health. So there were some very serious parts of that too. That you shared a story at that live show, which you said, I'm never going to share this again. And then we were like, hey, come on the podcast. And look, I think your Accidentally Unfiltered story is one of my absolute favorites. And I hope so badly that you're going to do it now.
Guys, I feel so uncomfortable about this story. I shared this story
In confidence.
In confidence because I was told before we did the live show, I was told it's not recorded. And straight away, I was just like, oh, that's a weight off my shoulders. Safe place.
There was 2,000 people there though, so it wasn't like it was an intimate chat.
It felt intimate,
Yeah.
between us and 2,000 people. And also I had a couple of champagne. So I had Dutch courage. I had my best mate with me. I was not mumming for the night. So I was like, oh, look at me. I'm free and fabulous. I want to tell this great story. And now you guys keep bringing it up and I don't want to tell it. It's so embarrassing.
Look, we are not going to make you do it, but also we'll stop the interview now.
You can leave, go home.
I think it's the only reason why I'm here is to retell that story. But I feel like it was the equivalent of being in the girls' bathroom when you've had a few drinks at a nightclub and you just start chatting. That's what that story was. But anyway, I don't know.
You are welcome to tell another Accidentally Unfiltered story.
Firstly, I just want everyone to just
Be open-minded.
kind and be open-minded. And
Rebel Wilson shit in broad daylight on Hollywood Boulevard on someone's front lawn. She told that. So
see, okay, people have done worse things. All right, guys. So I'll tell you a little quick story. So I was traveling around in a caravan because I love traveling around caravans. It's so fun. I was with my best friend. We were traveling. She had gone home, so I was by myself. And guess what? So I don't even know how to start this story. Okay. As people know who have been in a caravan, when you need to go and do a poo, which every human does, by the way, it can be very smelly. You also have to clean it out of the canister and it's just really gross and disgusting. Anyway, a guy I really liked was coming over to my caravan.
another hot caravanner was coming to your caravan.
Yeah, and we were just like going to hang out. Anyway, I was really nervous. And obviously when I get anxious, you just really need to go to the toilet. And I was just like, oh, no. So what I did when I was busting to go to do a poo, I got a plastic bag because I didn't want the toilet to smell. I didn't want it to be gross and disgusting.
You didn't want to have to clean out the canister.
Correct. Gross. So I put a plastic bag in the toilet and shit in the plastic bag. and then I tied it up in a knot, and then I was like, oh, great, where am I going to put this? And I was also really mindful because I was in a small town, and I don't ever like being this person, but people were really recognizing me, and I didn't want them to see Sam Frost chucking her shit in the bin.
Well, especially when they're like, Sam Frost doesn't have a dog with her, so whose doggy bag is that?
Exactly.
Whose poo is that?
So I got really paranoid about it, and it was like weighing on my brain. I'd felt like I'd killed someone. I had the dead body, and I didn't know what to do. So then I was like, okay, where am I going to put this? He's coming over. I'm stressing. I'm freaking out. So I put the shit in a freezer, and I just left it there. And I thought, okay, great. Phew. Just leave it there.
Salt.
Yeah, and it's not going to smell because I don't know if shit freezes, but
It does, and
Shit
it won't smell.
freezes.
Frozen shit can't smell. It's also out of sight, out of mind, baby.
Laura
Correct.
freezes her shit all the time. She knows.
No, you know how they say freeze prawn shells so that they don't smell when you put them in the bin?
no, I didn't know that.
Well, there you go. That's
Oh.
another tip.
See?
Yeah, that's what you do.
So then he ended up coming over, and then he was like going through my caravan, like opening up the drawers, and I was like, don't touch everything. And I was like, don't. I was like, don't. Anyway, then I was driving around for like 3 weeks with the shit in the freezer. It was freaking me out.
Why 3
was-
weeks?
Because I was nervous. I
shit
didn't know
can
what to
never
do with
escape.
it. I didn't know what to do with it, and I was stressed, and I was worried someone's going to recognize me putting it into the bin. So then I ended up like, I don't know, I was texting all my friends, paranoid, going, I don't know what to do with it. And I literally, one day, it was really dark, got out, chucked it in the bin, and just quickly drove. And anyway, that's what happened.
It's actually like, what would happen if you forgot and then someone went to defrost and were like, oh, look at this steak.
It's a sausage.
Well, I only borrowed the caravan, so someone else used that freezer after me.
Oh, that is so rank.
Well, I really want caravan sponsors to still sponsor our show. I'm not going to do it anymore.
So she's a virgin caravan shitter.
I'm not going to do it anymore. If any caravan companies want to sponsor my travel show, I won't do it.
It's also different now because now you're in a committed long-term relationship where you can just poo in a caravan around your husband. Like, it's fine.
100%, and he has to clean it out because I'm not touching it. He
beautiful.
regularly
I
goes,
think-
Things have really changed.
I think you have to clean your own shit out though. I don't think you can do a poo and then make your partner clean it.
No, it's different when you've like given birth and stuff and they've seen everything that there is to see. Like, it's just fine.
Jordie does it all the time. He always has to clean the poo out of the thing. And
It's everyone's poo.
Yeah, it's like a cocktail of shit.
Where do you put it? Like
in a dump,
in
in
the
a
freezer.
dump point. Or a freezer.
is it just like, have you seen like an espresso will hate me. You know, like a coffee machine, how there's got the little thing that pulls out where all the shells go. That's what I'm imagining, that you pull this thing out full of shit and then you just like walk around with it and tip it upside down.
There is a walk of shame you do have to do through the caravan park when you're holding your dump canister because everyone knows you've got shit on you.
But I guess that's the thing, right? It comes back to the start. Everyone poos. That's not embarrassing. It's the fact that you did it in a bag and put it in the freezer and left it there for a month.
Can I just say this has really spiraled into a deep unpack of how one removes feces from a caravan, which it's fine. We can go down that path. Welcome to Life on Cart, where we cover everything. Sam, does it feel a little bit better to get that off your chest, or are you now like, I'm going to leave here and die in a walk of shame?
Look, it does feel better.
Liberating.
Because I was really holding on to it. I knew 2,000 people knew that story already, and I just didn't want someone else to tell it.
I do say this, that if you claim something that you're embarrassed about, no one can then take that back from you, right? Because you're the one who put it out there in the world.
Yeah, I'm like,
be
I
proud
told
of
you.
yourself. Be proud.
That's what happens. If you think anything's ever going to be leaked or come out, you just have to get there first.
Yeah.
So if anyone had photographed you with a frozen poop, you just have to quickly jump on first and be like, I've already told that story, bitches.
Yeah,
Like,
idiots.
Sam, we saw you on our screens, and I almost don't know where to start with you because there are so many sections of your life that I have loved and admired. And I do say admired because what you did becoming an actress, and you were on radio, and you just had this incredible career off the back of, we'll call it misfortune. We'll call it The Bachelor for you was not great. But what I love the most is that you've gone down a real path of being a mental health advocate, and it's a big part of your life in the last couple of years. How did you and why did you get into that world so heavily?
I think one of the main reasons why is because obviously I have grown up struggling with depression and anxiety, and it was conversations that weren't being had when I was a teenager. So I grew up just thinking something was wrong with me, and I thought something was different about me. I genuinely thought something was wrong with my brain. So it put me in a really isolating position when I was younger because I didn't understand myself. You don't talk to psychologists when you're younger, and even these conversations weren't being had. So it was a really confusing time for me. I was a really angry teen. I was sad. I was super depressed and had all these really suicidal thoughts constantly. And that was scary. And I've grown up. My mum suffers with mental illness as well. So it's something that I have been broadly aware of. But again, my mum wasn't diagnosed with anything. It was just, it was just the way she was. And it wasn't until we're older that there's more education about mental health and mental illness that then you can then label it, get the proper medication, proper help for it. But that wasn't being had. So you just are like, oh, something's wrong with our brains.
Well, I can only imagine that if you're struggling with something that your mum is also struggling with, it almost becomes normalized. You're like,
Correct.
well, this is something that people just deal with. And not that you don't get treatment, but that this is not abnormal because this is my experience, especially as a child.
Correct. And you sort of feel like you just go, oh, well, I'm just like my mum and this is how we behave and this is what's normal, So that's really tricky. And my mum's a beautiful person. She's so strong and resilient and she's been through a lot, and I have grown up watching that thinking, oh, this is just the way it is.
Knowing that you are somebody who has struggled with mental health at different periods of your life, it seems like it was a pretty brave decision to put yourself out there to go and do a reality TV show like The Bachelor, because they do psych tests, they talk about the strains and the pressures. And I know it's one of those situations where you kind of never know how much of a strain or how much pressure it's going to be until you experience it yourself. But why did you want to do that, knowing that it was going to be such a big life change?
Well, I think at the time, so this was in 2014, I did The Bachelor. So that was 10 years ago, and it was before.
Makes me feel old.
Yeah, it was before reality TV really was what it is now. And it was before Instagram. So it was before, like, Instagram was around, but it didn't have you didn't get the following, you didn't get all the things that come with it. At the time, I didn't think so anyway. It was very new. We only had one Bachelor season beforehand, and that was Tim and Anna, and they loved each other and they still love each other. They're beautiful friends of mine. And I actually think I was just really naive, and I was 24 in a small town thinking, I genuinely was like, they're going to search the whole country for the perfect guy and I'm going to have the opportunity to date him. How amazing.
It's crazy that you say to me that you were 24 years old, because I went on The Bachelor when I was 30. And when I remember watching you, I had no idea you were so young. I just didn't feel like that. It's hard for anyone at any age, even with life experience, to be in that position, let alone you being the main character and only 24 years old. What was that like coming out on the other side?
It was one of the most surreal experiences. I remember seeing the billboard for The Bachelorette, and even at the time, a lot of magazines were writing about it, and I felt like it wasn't me. I was like, I don't know who that person is, but that doesn't feel like me, because I don't know, I just felt like there was this huge misunderstanding of who I was, and people assume they know who you are, and I think you girls get this a lot. People think that they know you and you're like, you don't know me at all. You don't know anything about me. So it felt like I was really detached from that experience. But also at the same time, I did very much experience that. I did experience the I felt really humiliated. I remember at the time after The Bachelor, yeah, I was really humiliated because I was like, I had really genuine intentions and someone's manipulated that. And at the time, you think everyone's got your best interest. Producers have your best interest. And then you realise afterwards, you're like, oh, I think they played me.
They're creating a storyline. Well, I mean, for anyone who doesn't remember, or for any younger listeners or someone who didn't watch The Bachelorette or Bachelor, Sam Frost was on Blake Garvey's season. Blake chose Sam, and then very shortly afterwards he changed his mind and went with the person who was number 3. I think he tried to get number 2 and then he went to number 3. Like, the guy was unsure, and that's a terrible thing to be if you are the actual Bachelor. But then off the back of that, Sam, you became the Bachelorette. You were the very first person that when Australia saw the heartbreak, they then got around that heartbreak and wanted you to have your happy ending. What was that second experience like of doing the Bachelorette?
It was much different. And yeah, it was really different. It feels weird having to go back in time thinking about it, to be honest. But I had much more
control.
I had much more control, and I had a better understanding of what it is. And I was really adamant that I made the choices about who stays and who goes. And I had a really beautiful conversation with the EP. She was fantastic. She was a different EP from the first season. And we sat down and I cried and cried and cried. I remember it was at a cafe in Bondi and I was like, this is real for me. This is a real experience. You guys see me as a character, as a puppet in your show. And I'm like, this is so real. I want to find someone. I was so humiliated. How can I trust you again? And she just said, I want you to be part of it as much as or as little as you want, whatever it is. And so I put in different guidelines. I wanted off-screen time with the person that I chose. I wanted to make sure they were genuine.
Did they give you off-screen time?
They did. They were really good. They really...
No way.
No one gets off-screen time.
No one gets it.
Yeah, I know. So I was really... I'm not sure if I was allowed to say that, but
That's
I was
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Matt and I had off-screen time.
Yay.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we had heaps of off-screen time that wasn't played
No
out on
wonder
TV.
Nick didn't pick me. Oh, no time. I would have won him over in a heartbeat.
Well, I think it's because you go, oh, this is the person I want. You tell them and then they go, okay, cool.
They make it happen, yeah. And maybe that was the difference in that.
What, he didn't want me from the start?
No, he wasn't sure.
you mate, nah.
Thanks.
It's always too soon. No, but I understand. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why people are so in disbelief that someone could pick a person on a reality TV show and then be like, but you don't even spend any time together. And I always kind of felt like, but we did spend lots of time together. And even explaining that to the other girls from our season, I quickly realized they didn't get off-screen time with Matt, but I had. And so my experience with him was very, very different to their experience with him.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that, I didn't know that about
It's
you guys.
interesting.
That's
Oh, it must
awesome.
be nice. Okay, so moving along. No, I did want to go back into something. I mean, this is still in the mental health realm, but just something you said before, because I think it'll resonate with a lot of people. You said when you were younger, you thought something was wrong with you, with your thoughts. You thought your brain wasn't wired right. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by that? Like, what were the feelings and thoughts that you were sitting in? And when was the time where you realized, oh, okay, not everybody feels like this, and I might need to go and investigate this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Definitely, I always felt different and I can't really describe the way I felt. It was more like I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. I had great friends, but I didn't feel like I had safe people that I trusted. I didn't feel like I didn't like being in my body. I hated myself. I hated my brain. I hated the way I looked. I hated my thoughts. I hated everything about who I was. And some people would put it down as being a teenager, but I could tell that my thoughts were so destructive and, yeah, it was ruining my life. There's many times when you're like that, certainly in my teenage years and my early 20s, or even late 20s, to be honest, when you're feeling like that and you're suffering from depression and you're in this dark black hole, you feel like you're a burden to everybody. You feel like you would do the world a favour if you weren't in it. And that is a very familiar feeling for me.
I am too.
I know a lot of people would be resonating with what you're saying right now.
Yeah, it's a feeling that I have lived with for a long time, and you guys make me cry.
Do you know right now that the world is definitely a better place for you being in it?
Well, I look at my beautiful son and my partner and the life I have now, and I guess that's why I'm so passionate about talking about mental health and mental illness, is because there is a bright side. You do get better.
Something that I think is so powerful, and it was one of the conversations we had in Brisbane. Just let's all sit here and cry together.
I was not expecting it. Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
Oh, goodness.
Was people look at you and think, but she has it all. You are beautiful. You are successful. You're an actress on TV. And I guess even in that moment, you're playing a character. But I think at that live show, people got to see a version of you that they didn't understand existed. And having that visibility allows people to have empathy, because, you know, we all know, and we've all been told that mental health affects people in different ways. It's very different having someone sit in front of you and say, this is how bad it got for me. And I don't know if you want to go into it or not, to whatever depth you feel comfortable, because I remember during COVID with the whole vaccination thing, And this was at a time when you were just about to bring out your book, Believe. And I had been sent an early copy of it. It is a brilliant book. And it was so beautifully written around mental health. And your messaging around vaccinations got really caught up and really got turned into something that it wasn't. And that's how I felt when I saw it at the time. But also at the time, I was like, fucking, I'm not waging in on an internet war. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I think most people in the public eye felt. They saw that whole thing unfolding and everyone was like, that's going to blow up, right? Which when I look back now, I'm like, what a hugely alone time that must have been for you when your main purpose was to advocate for mental health and it was twisted into something that it wasn't. I would love to get your insight on how that unfolded for you and where you were at.
That was I feel like 2021 was an awful year for my mental health in general. I had a lot of stuff happening in my family life that I keep private to protect my family. There was a lot of things happening in my private life at home in Melbourne, and we'd lost our stepdad as well, and it was a really yucky time anyway. And then with all the vaccine mandates and all the pressure and on social media and then people was saying you're going to lose your job. And I was like, what is going on? Like, it was a really confusing time for everyone. I don't think anyone was okay during COVID.
No one was.
I think the type of person that I am is I'm a very open-minded person. I can see different points of view all the time, regardless of what I think about it. So if someone tells me an opinion that's different to what I think, I don't have hostility towards them. I just go, oh, that's really interesting, and have a conversation. And I just assume people are like that, but it turns out they're not. But yeah, so when I did the video about that, if you actually watch the video, which many people didn't do, if you actually watch the video, it was all about mental health. And it was about how I was saying, no one is okay right now. Like, whatever you think about these vaccines, everyone is struggling with their mental health, and you need to be compassionate and have empathy towards people who may think differently to you. That was the whole point of the messaging, and it got absolutely twisted, out of context, and turned into something bigger and far uglier than what it was meant to be. And it actually proved my point entirely, to be honest, because I was saying there's no space for people to have conversations anymore.
You're like, here's my social experiment, it worked.
Yeah, correct, and I had felt quite isolated at the time because I wasn't able to have these conversations. So I thought there must be so many people who are feeling like this. My mental health was not okay. And I said that in the video as well. I was just like, I'm not okay. I don't know how any of you guys are feeling, but yeah, it was a really tricky time. And then, yeah, the fallout from that was quite ugly as well. And personally as well, I just felt like I was completely misunderstood. But anyway, it was gross and ugly. And I ended up just going, oh man, like, I need to go home and be with my family. So that's when I made the decision to leave home and away and go and be with my family.
How did you survive that time?
Did I? I really leaned on the people that I love. My sister's amazing. My brothers are amazing. I've got such an incredible support system. I've got beautiful friends, who just held my hand through that and just supported me through it. But the annoying thing is then people go, she's an anti-vaxxer. And I'm like, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. My child's immunised. I'm immunised. All I was talking about was the mental health issues that are coming out of this is people are struggling and the pressure is not helping, and people losing their jobs and saying you can't earn an income if you don't make this decision. And I don't know.
And what did it look like for those people that are listening right now so that they can fully understand? Because sometimes not much makes me as angry as online bullying and trolling does. It's one of those things that makes me upset and very passionate. But a lot of people come in, see a post or an article, put their 2 cents down and walk away. And they have no idea that that is contributing to something that might have been going on for months on multiple platforms, on multiple levels, on multiple sources, Facebook, Instagram, the news, your DMs, like everywhere. But to them, they walk in, they put their comment in and they walk away. What was it looking like and feeling like for you over that time, and how long did this go on for?
I mean, I still get it. Like
2 years, 3 years later?
Yeah, it's been 3 years, and sometimes you still get the comment about it and you just go, I can't even describe it. Like, it is so rattling when these things happen and you just cry and cry and cry, and all you can do is cry, and you switch off your phone and you feel like you're like, oh my God, everyone hates me. And especially when someone is vulnerable and they have spoken about having mental health issues. And I was in a really vulnerable space at that time, and I was like, oh, this is not great. And I just, basically I did. I crawled in a hole. I quit my job and went home. So, I mean, the thing about online and social media and mass outrage is it's most of the time people don't really know what they're talking about.
Agree.
People will read a headline and just comment on it and like, do you know what you're actually talking about? And when you actually look at things in context, and this goes for all media, for all articles, when you actually read what was said when they're quoting someone and making hysteria around something that someone said, when you actually read it, most of the time it's actually not that bad.
Well, yeah, it's like you got to dial it down 90%, you know? But the thing is that it's the people who contribute to outrage culture, and something we've spoken about on this podcast before, and I think it's worth mentioning it now. People use outrage culture as a way to grow their own Instagram following. It's like if I get angry enough and loud enough at somebody else on the internet and I point my following at their following, it actually helps grow your individual following. It is a literal tool. And there's been studies that's been done on this. Nobody's Instagram following will grow faster than if you are angry about something. So think about the people who you follow. And I think this is an exercise for everyone. Think about who you follow, and did you start following them because they are very angry about a topic, multiple topics, or what that looks like? Because I think that that's always a good litmus for like why it exists. And sometimes outrage culture isn't always for the right reason. You know, there is times when it's absolutely justified, and there's times where it's pointing and firing at someone.
But it's also one of those things that you never know. It's such a cliche, but you don't know what someone else is going through ever. And 100%. Do you want to be that person that contributes to a pylon? Like I've experienced that myself in the public eye, much less to you. I'm imagining, because I know at the time yours went on for a very long time and it was enormous. But I went through a time myself where I was like, I don't know if I want to be on this earth anymore. And I'm glad it was fleeting. But when you feel like there are, and I'm going to get upset, when you feel like there are hundreds of thousands of people that are unrelenting on something that they don't know about, that tell you that you shouldn't be here and you should die, and you know that you're a horrible person when you've spent your whole life trying to be a good person, and it doesn't stop. Like there are plenty of people around the world that have been in positions where they have been on TV or in the media that have suicided because off the back of pylons.
I can absolutely understand how people get there. It's enormous, and people don't understand that it's not just the comment, oh, you're ugly, I can handle that. It's people literally tell you that you are better off dying, go kill yourself, all this sort of like gnarly shit. I don't know if I can swear on this thing.
You can swear.
You know what I mean? And you just go, yeah, mate, everything you've said, I've thought it myself, so I don't need you telling me. And what happens is Instagram also, its algorithm is designed to get you engaged, to get you outraged, to get you angry. And what it's actually doing as well is it's making people more fired up, and they get a dopamine hit when they start firing away, calling people out. And I'm like, this isn't the culture I want to be a part of.
But this is very true. So, I mean, I'm just going to throw Instagram stats at everyone because I find this stuff so fascinating. But Instagram knows, like social media knows that if you're engaging with content on the platform that makes you feel happy, you will spend less time on the platform than if you engage with content that makes you feel angry. So it is going to feed out that type of content far wider with such like ferocity, because at the end of the day, the only thing social media cares about is how long you engage with that platform so they can serve you as many ads as possible.
Correct.
And I mean, sometimes I just think when I see these sorts of fucking pylons go down, I'm like, people just need to, not you as in the people who are on the bottom of the pylon, but like people need to put down their phones, go and touch grass and like breathe some fresh air and think about what are we angry about? Because sometimes it's like the causation of what has happened is so far, and it just kind of spirals into something bigger and uglier than it ever was in the beginning.
Correct. Yeah. Anytime I'm in those situations, or I even see it happening to other people, I've seen it happen to people that I love, and I just turn my phone off because I can't even watch it secondhand because it's so awful and it causes so much anxiety, and I'm just like, I feel sick for them. This is awful. And it just, anyway, and then people go, I don't care anymore. Now I'm over it. I've got another issue to worry about. And you're like, that person is still struggling because of all the bullshit that you said to them, you know?
Knowing that mental health and anxiety are pretty prevalent in this day and age, in this society. What are some of the things that you do that help you when you're having those moments?
I stay off my phone. That is the number one thing I do. Anytime I'm feeling really anxious, I'll switch it off, not go near it. I would lay down on the ground when I'm feeling super anxious and you've got this knot in your stomach and you can't get out of it. I'll lay on the ground, close my eyes and just count and just try to breathe really deeply until I can steady my breath and my body will listen to my breathing, and I tell myself that I'm safe and I'm okay, and then I sort of regulate. And then once I don't feel that deep panic, once I've sort of regulated my body a little bit more, I'll do things like read a good book, or sometimes if I'm too distracted or wired for that, then I'll go for a walk, I'll call my sister, I'll call a friend or something like that. If I feel like I'm not going to check, social media or send anxious texts or anything like that, then I'll call someone. But yeah, I spend a lot of time by myself when I feel those knots and things like that. Some people prefer being with other people. It just depends on your personal style. But yeah, I'll usually try to do something that's grounding. And sometimes that's just eating some Vegemite toast.
And what are the differences in, I guess, what does it look like when you have a depressive episode for those people that don't actually know if that's what they're having? Mm-hmm. Because I feel like sometimes there are so many articles, people, research, Google that make you feel like you're so broken and there's so much wrong with you. For your episodes, what actually happens? What are the symptoms?
Most of the time, so it's fight, flight and freeze. And usually I go into a freeze state where I can't get out of bed, I can't eat, I don't shower, I can't think anything positive or productive, and I'm just in this spiraling loop. That's what mine look like. Sometimes, most of the time I lose heaps of weight because I'm just like really anxious. And again, social media, I mean, I've blocked heaps of comments now, but social media always like, you look disgusting, eat a burger, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, you've got no idea, shut up. You have no idea what I'm going through, okay? Just stop. That's why I prevent posting when I'm feeling like that now. But sometimes, like when I was working, these times are unavoidable. You have to post, you have to promote your work. And sometimes I'll go to work and I would be happy and, hey, how's it going, la, la. And then like the second I get in my car, you just crash and burn, you just go back into your hole. And that's just trying to live with it.
Have you ever been on medication for your mental health, or have you ever explored that?
I haven't. And that's just my personal preference. But, I think medication is a great tool for helping you be able to get psychological help, like seeing a psychologist and doing cognitive behavior therapy, whatever works for you. So I think it's a great tool. I don't think it's the solution. That's my personal opinion. I'm not a doctor. But for me personally, I go and see psychologists. As soon as I can feel it within myself when I'm feeling like I'm at the end of my week, I can feel it coming because I'm so used to it now. I'll go and see a psychologist and always workshop things through with her. Yeah, that's what I personally like to do. But yeah, everyone's different.
Your life has changed so much over the years. And I feel like watching in from the outside, it's, we talk about Taylor Swift eras, but like I feel like there's been like different versions of you throughout like your media profile, your personal life, your reality TV time. And one thing which I think resonates throughout this conversation, but one thing that has always resonated throughout looking in from the outside is how authentic you are. And now you are in a whole new phase, and that is being a mum. I remember you said at the live show, you were like, it's so fucking good. It's so good. And I loved hearing you say that, because often we highlight all the shitty bits about parenthood. We highlight all the things that are hard about it. And every time I hear like a new mum who's got a little kid who's in the thick of the shit bit, like Teddy's one now.
Yeah.
Like you're still in like the hard yards, but hearing people go, it's so amazing, I think is really joyful as well. And we don't hear that side of parenting enough.
I mean, Sam did walk in today and be like, oh my God, Teddy hasn't, he's been up all night. He's
I'm really tired today.
But, and also for people who have mental health struggles, to hear that you can have a child and have joy within that as well, because I know that that's a fear for so many mums and so many women. Like, well, what if I have a baby and it makes things worse?
100%. That is exactly how I felt. I was so worried. The dread that I felt about thinking, what if I have postnatal depression? I already have a history of depression. So this is really scary for me. And lots of people talk about how hard it is, and warranted, absolutely warranted. I'm not saying that's not. But I was really nervous about it. So what I actually did before I had Ted and I was pregnant, I started seeing a psychologist just to touch up.
Like a health check.
I shouldn't say touch
No, it's a tune. It is. It's like a tune up for your brain.
It's a little tune up. That's a good way to say it. Yeah. And I was just like, hey, my number one focus is I want to create a secure attachment to my child. I want him to feel safe. And I'm so nervous about having postnatal depression. She helped me through it. And yeah, she was amazing. So I continued to see her through my pregnancy, even when I had Ted. Yeah. And sometimes I'll still check in with her. But I can honestly tell you that the worries that you have are warranted, and you're allowed to feel like that. Feel what you need to feel. You're allowed to be conscious of it, because I think if I wasn't conscious of how I would feel mentally, I think that would be...
Or you wouldn't have done the preparation.
Correct. Yeah. But yeah, I can honestly say it is the most fun I've ever had. I'm so happy. And I also think, I'm really grateful for having mental health issues in the past, and even, I'm susceptible to it. So I think I'm grateful for that, because I know what it feels like to feel low. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I'm tired, but this is so rewarding. I feel so much love, and we have such a beautiful relationship with Ted. He's amazing. And I just feel so grateful that I get to experience this, and it's something so positive. And I'm just like, look at this tiny little thing. Like, this is amazing.
They're so cool.
They're
Look at this.
They're so much fun. I can't even express that enough.
How do you think it's changed you?
I think I just feel really happy. I feel really content. I feel really peaceful. I think that he has brought out the best side of me. He's a little gift to this world, and I feel like he came into our lives, into Jordie's life, my life, and our family's life at the perfect time. He has brought so much joy into all of our lives, and he's just this gift of love and happiness, and he's just cool and funny, and I just think he's the best, and he's just made me the best person I could be. And the thing is, like, I feel really confident in my mumming,
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel really good about this.
You're like, I can do this.
I think I'm doing a good job. So I feel really good, and he's just the best, and I feel really lucky.
So you're even selling it to me a little bit.
Mate,
Wow.
it's
This
really
is what
fun.
I say. I mean, I know that everyone has different experiences of motherhood. When I say this, I never want someone who's listening to this who's having a fucking hard time to be like, cool, thanks for rubbing it in my face that you're finding it so great and so wonderful, because I know that exists for some people. But I do think that version gets a lot of airtime these days. We often talk about the struggles of parenthood, and that's not something that is unknown. But I don't think we talk about the great bits enough. And I think so many people go into motherhood frightened that it's going to totally fuck their lives, like frightened that they're going to have to give up their friends and give up a social life and give up traveling and give up literally everything. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that you have been so passionate about and carved out, is that you and your partner, you had Ted, and you were like, no, traveling is so important to us. And we're not only are we going to do it, we're going to make a TV show about it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that...
In a caravan, in like the hardest version of traveling as well.
Yeah, we just cruise around, but you can still have it all. And I think that's really important to remind people. For sure, I have days like the other morning, I could not stop crying. I was just like, I'm so tired. But that was, I had that, but then you look at him and you're like, oh, that's, it's all worth it. So you definitely still have those days, but mate, it's so good. Like, I went out with my girlfriends last night. I have a beautiful time with my partner. Like, we have the best relationship, and people always worry about their relationship with their partner. And I had a girlfriend of mine who is currently heavily pregnant. She's like, everyone keeps telling me it's going to change. And I was like, mate, Jordan and I are so good. We're the best. Like, we have to communicate better and be on the same team. But apart from that, we have so much fun.
Totally. And you have to prioritize things like sex, stuff that like used to be so easy to do. Now you're like, guess we'll do it tomorrow night. But then you actually have to do it tomorrow night. You can't be like, we're going to fuck in the evening. And then the evening comes and you're like, I can't be bothered.
Mate,
you have to follow through.
We have to do pinky swears.
Yeah.
About sex.
The other day he's like, do you want to do it? And I was like,
you're like, not right now, but I will later.
Like, no. I was like, tomorrow. And he goes, no, because then tomorrow will come, you'll say you're tired. And I was like, pinky swear, pinky swear, pinky swear. Anyway, and then tomorrow
Mums
came,
around the country understand this.
and then I was like, we had a pinky swear, babe. And he's like, yes. I mean, his clothes could not have come off quicker, honestly.
But I think that's really really important, not even if you have kids, right? Like people that are in really long-term relationships, you have to make an effort for relationships.
Totally.
Relationships become something that you need to literally consciously turn up to.
Do you know what? I was actually thinking of you, Britt, the other day.
Oh,
Because
God.
because you post a real spicy photo on Instagram stories, and I was like, I remember those days. Because Ben would look at that and be like, oh, you're so
Oh yeah, I still
You're
do
in
that
this-
for my long distance relationship.
Oh, yeah, that's gone.
You're in sexy land. You get the sexy texts. I'm sure you're doing all sorts of bits and pieces on FaceTime.
Oh yeah, it gets hot.
But
It gets hot and heavy on that screen.
You are in like a fun zone. Like I remember feeling like I saw one of your posts and I was like, oh yeah, I remember doing that sort of stuff.
We
I
don't
remember.
need to schedule anything in. Like
Oh,
we are doing multiple times a day when we're together. 2 months, I reckon, there's a reason I can't walk properly still.
Is your vagina working now?
It's on overtime. It's like it needs to go on a vacay, which is why long distance is great. It has a rest.
May I say, your photos ooze, I'm having 3 lots of sex every single day. It did. I must say.
You look at
I
Sam,
got-
you're
I
like
got
she
that vibe.
just banged.
No,
I got
Sam,
that
why
vibe.
do you not say the same thing to me? Why don't you look at my Instagram and think I'm fucking all the time?
Look, I saw the video about the poos. And I
Because
just
you're
went,
not.
Yeah.
Because you're
You
absolutely
can
not.
tell.
And we know.
You can tell.
You can tell.
Right back at you, Sam. Right back at you.
But doing a little switcheroonie gear.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your acting. You've had some time off now because you did settle down and have some kids and one kid. But how did you, from the outside, it looked like one day you were on a reality TV show and then the next day you were like the biggest, hottest thing in Australia. Like you were on Home and Away, who everyone wanted to be on Home and Away. It was like, the show we all grow up with. From the outside, overnight success. Is that actually how it played out?
No. I mean, I remember when I got the job on Home and Away, and people were really annoyed about it. Some people were.
very mad.
I remember this. There were people who were like, how dare she? When, like, what's her experience? What's this? And you proved yourself so well on that show. But how do you even deal with that negativity when you've just been given the opportunity of your dreams?
Yeah. Well, the thing was, I could actually understand where they were coming from. I could completely understand that they would be annoyed about that. Jobs for actors are so rare that I can understand why someone goes, mate, she's from reality TV. Why is she getting a job that I deserve?
I've studied for 15 years. Like, yeah.
Correct. And I completely understand that. But in my position, I was the one that got the opportunity. And I'm like, I'm not going to throw this away because you don't think I deserve it. I just had to put my head down and work my ass off. And so that's what I did. I think I had to work 3 times harder because I had people telling me that I wasn't worthy of the job. I think that worked for me because I had to work really hard, and I did. And I spent 5 years every weekend and every weeknight I was going to acting school. I was working with private tutors. I was, studying, working with dialect coaches and voice coaches and doing all sorts of things, improv classes, anything. I just really put my head down and focused on that. And it was more so because I felt really grateful that someone saw potential in me and I wanted to prove that person right.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you for believing in me. I'm going to prove that you made the right decision. And it was also, one of those opportunities I think people would die for, and I was very grateful for that. So I just thought, I'm going to make the most of this and work really hard.
No one's turning that opportunity down.
No one.
But I think that's also what people don't realize is that they see you turn up on the screen because that's what you're going to post and that's what the public sees. But they don't see the work that you're putting in either side. Like, I didn't know that you studied every single night and every weekend and did all those classes. Like, I didn't know that. And many people don't know that. So I think that's really important to know that, again, like, you just don't know what's the effort and the work someone's putting in behind the screens.
Yeah, the behind the scenes, for sure. Sam, you mentioned it like a little bit, and I guess I'd love to get some clarity around it. Did you want to leave when you left Home and Away, or did you feel like you had to leave?
Both.
And did you feel like you had to leave because of just everything that was going on in your life?
Yes. I ended up getting vaccinated after all that anyway. And I was like, so that was worth nothing anyway. All that, I got it anyway. Anyway, yeah, so I did end up getting it. And then, but it was by that point, I was just like, I was so fatigued mentally. And I had realized, I think COVID was great in a way that it really realized your priorities. And I was studying when I wasn't working, and I had, sacrificed relationships and time with my family. And I'm like, I just miss my family. I miss me. I missed myself. And I missed what I feel like when I'm hanging out with my brothers playing Mario Kart and just laughing. And I was just like, I need that back because I don't know who I am anymore, and I'm lost in this messy confusing world at the moment, and I was really drowning in all that social media noise, and I was just like, no, this isn't good for me. So yeah, I was already temporarily written out because the times to get to vaccines, I wasn't going to be able to hit it because I was late. I got mine later. So I was already getting written out. But then I said, I don't know if I want to come back. I think I want to go home and spend time with my family. And they said, well, you're already written out, so we can just leave it at that. And
So they were writing you out for the break, and then obviously you're going on holiday or whatever, and then you're going to come back in.
Yeah. So
And then
I've left quite abruptly out of home and away. And then didn't come
You
back.
went down to the corner store for milk and just didn't come
Yeah.
back.
You're like, where did she go?
The disappearance of Sam Frost home. But did you feel support from home and away when you through that whole process?
Channel 7 were amazing. Home and Away, the producers were amazing. I honestly cannot stress that enough. Like, they were so good to me. And they were supportive. They knew I didn't want to get it. And they really helped me when they told me it was mandated. They didn't just do it ruthlessly. They called me in. They said, Sammy, we need to see you. They're like, it's not our decision. It's being mandated. And I burst into tears and I was like, oh no. And I was like, now I've got to make a decision. And it's a decision I didn't want to make. I wasn't ready to make. Anyway, so they were really good. They put me in a meeting and I was like, oh, okay, so I've got to make a decision. And then, I thought about it and I was like, yeah, all right, I'll get it. But by then it was just too noisy and messy and my mental health wasn't great and I need to go home and be with my family.
Well, speaking about being able to then prioritize the things that are important to you and opening yourself up, because I'm guessing when you're filming and you're acting and you're studying, that consumed so much of life, which doesn't leave much room for relationships. But then you went on to meet your now partner, who you have Ted with. How did you guys meet? He was on Survivor.
Yes, so Jordie was on Survivor.
Just two reality TV people coming together.
You know what it's like.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, you actually do.
No, I don't. No.
We've all been there.
Yeah, it was like, it's so wild as well. It's just a classic old thing of being like, I left home and away not having any idea what my life was going to look like. I didn't have a job to go to. I wasn't in a relationship. And I just thought, I just need to open up space for a relationship, for, even just dating.
Just stuff.
Just life.
Make room and then new things fall into place.
Correct. And it literally happened just like that. I went to a pub. My brother's like, oh, come on, Sam, come and hang out with us. And I was like, all right. Anyway, so I went there and he was hanging out with Jordie and I met Jordie. And actually that night we didn't spend heaps of time together. I just was acutely aware of his presence. And then
he's your brother's bestie.
yeah. And then he always wants everyone to know I hit him up, okay?
Did you? In the DMs?
Yeah. I did.
Oh, you hit him up in the DMs.
Yeah, I hit him up.
He's also 7 years younger, so I like you're a bit of a cougar with this one.
I vibe that too because I'm a classic cougar.
Go get what you want.
It's so great.
What was your DM sliding? Do you remember?
Your opening line.
I can't actually remember. I know my brother did say to him, he's like, oh, this is so weird and gross. My sister thinks you're hot. And I was like,
You're going to bang my sister.
Yeah. And then I ended up, and then we went, what did we do? Oh, man. Oh, yeah. And then and then I just invited myself over to his house.
Romantic.
It went from 0 to 100 real quick.
I love you. Like, what do we do? Where do we go for our first date? Oh, that's
We did doggy.
Yeah, that's what. Yes. We didn't actually have sex, so I've got dick in it, guys.
Oh, didn't you?
No.
Oh,
mate.
cute.
Just
So wholesome.
Keeping it classy,
You made it work for it.
I waited 2 days, so yeah, it was good by me.
Sam Frost, keeping it classy from 2021.
Yeah, so anyway, that's what happened. And yeah, it was like, when you know, it was amazing. And he's just a cool dude. We have very similar interests. He drives me crazy sometimes, but I love him so much.
Were you guys planning on having a baby when you did?
We did actually. Well, he always says, his version and my version are very different. He always says how I was trying to get some young pup to have
To procreate with.
because he's like, because I did say, I was like, I'm getting older. I don't know how long it's going to take, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it didn't take long at all. So I baby trapped him. I didn't actually, don't say
We'll take that out.
We'll take that out. That's what I say. That's what I say about
Do you
that
know
as well.
Do you know what I remember? What I want to ask? I wanted to know this since it happened. When you were pregnant early, it wasn't announced yet. And I'll never forget, you posted a photo and it was just a photo of you guys, but in the background was a pregnancy book and it was only up for like a minute and everyone was like an aha moment, screenshot it. Did you intentionally try to post that? Or were you actually like, oh, I just ruined everything?
Well, I actually thought...
Was that it?
Do you know what? Yeah, so it was a corner. It was the bottom corner of a pregnancy book. I actually went, oh, what fucking geeks, get a life. Like, how do you know that's the book? Like, anyway, that's what I actually thought. And I was like, who cares? Like, I didn't actually care at the time. It wasn't intentional. But yeah, I just remember at the time being like, man, get a life.
You accidentally announced your own pregnancy.
Yeah,
with
much.
a very famous pregnancy book, though. I remember it. I remember
only
seeing
the
the
corner.
photo. Yeah, but it's like
it was just a yellow. It was like a tiny yellow corner.
I can't even remember the name of it, but because we had babies before you, but like, you know, I've read all the books that you would have read at the time, but I remember seeing it and I was like, oh, I know that book, you know,
That
and
is
it was a
wild
really
to
common
me.
book that like you get. Sam, you are honestly such a dream. You have your new TV show. It is called Sam and Ted's Travels. Did I get that right?
Jordie, Sam and Ted's Adventures.
It's called Jordie, Sam and
Same, but different.
It's called Jordie, Sam and Ted's Adventures. 6 episodes. We can't wait to watch it. Also for any mums or soon-to-be mums out there who are pregnant, who think that your life is going to be fucking over. It's not. Watch this. Be inspired. Take your newborn baby in a caravan. Travel Australia. We can't wait to see it. And we're so grateful to have you on the podcast. We're grateful for your vulnerability and for how openly you share everything.
We love Sam.
We do. And having you at our live show was honestly, it was one of the absolute highlights.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.